In this tutorial, we're going to do just a basic Photoshop walkthrough, looking at Bridge, Camera Raw, opening images in Photoshop, some background copies, some basic adjustment layers, and how we can save as a Photoshop document and how we can flatten and save as a JPEG. So what I'm going to do is start by going to Bridge. If I don't have it down here in my toolbar, I go down to the launch pad. I may have to swipe left or right to get to the correct screen that has the Bridge icon. Click on it once, and then I'm going to choose where my folder or my image is. I already pre-placed my image on my desktop. So over here on the left-hand side, I will make sure I have desktop chosen. And there he is. There is the image that I would like to use. So to open it in Camera Raw, I am going to, on my keyboard, hold down the Command button that is on either side of my space bar and tap the R key. And this is the Camera Raw window. Now here is where I can make my basic adjustments, taking a look at exposure, darkening or lightening, and adjusting however I like for my image. Once I adjust to the point where I'm happy and I want to go to Photoshop, down here at the bottom is where I'm going to hit the Open Image button, and that will kick my image on to Photoshop. It may take a minute to get there, but it will eventually pop open the window, and you will know you're in Photoshop when you can look up at the top of your screen. You see Adobe Photoshop here, and you see Photoshop up in the corner as well. Now, before I start my adjusting, the number one most important thing I want to do is make a copy of my background layer. Over here in my Layers panel is where I will find all of my layers. Remember, this is what I explain as that stack of pancakes. So we're going to start building in layers. What I can do is create a duplicate layer a couple of ways. I can, on my keyboard, hit Command J, and it will create a new copy layer. I can also right-click on this layer and choose Duplicate Layer, and it will make me a copy of the layer. The last thing I can do is click and hold the layer that I want to duplicate and drag it down to the new layer icon. This is the one right next to the trash can, so be careful about where you drop that layer. So here I'm clicking and holding, dragging and carrying it with me, hovering over the new layer icon. All of those will get you the same result. It doesn't matter which one you use, it's all about your preference. I like the quick command, Command J. And this leads me to the next thing that I want to show you. This is titled Layer 1. I want to remind myself that this is a copy of my background layer. So I'm going to rename my layer. To rename a layer, I hover over the title of the layer right here, double click, and it will highlight my text in blue. I can just start typing, and I'm going to title this one Background Copy. And hit enter, and now it is saved. What I'm going to show you how to do first is access what's called your adjustment layers. They are down here. This little circle with half white, half dark gray, that is your new adjustment layer icon. So when I want to make a new adjustment layer, that means this is a layer that I am going to change the quality of it somehow. I click on that and this big menu will pop up. These are all of the layers that I can apply to my photo and change it and alter it. So the first one that I want to have you take a look at is just a simple exposure. And you are adjusting exactly what it says. This is a way you can go back and adjust your exposure if you didn't get it adjusted just right in your Camera Raw. The next layer that I can take a look at, so if I come back down to my adjustment icon, next one I want to show you is brightness and contrast. Brightness is going to be very similar to your exposure. So in this one, we like to use this one to access our contrast. When I want this property menu to go away, I press the little sideways arrows right here, and that will shrink my property panel back into my workspace over here on the side. The last one that I want to show you guys in this tutorial is black and white. Right here. Boom, I have a black and white image. Now what I can do is I can use the drop-down menu and I can choose from a preset for black and white editing. Or what I can do right here in my properties box is I can go through and adjust colors on their own. So when I am working on the red slider, I am adjusting only the red values in my image. Same with the greens. This is going to affect all of the greenery around him. I can adjust it the way I like it. There was some blue in his shirt that I can take a look at also. And again, when I'm done, I do the two little sideways arrows and shrink that menu back into my workspace over here. So now is a good time to pause this video, either hitting the pause button down at the bottom or tapping your spacebar, then going and checking out the different adjustment layers that there are down here in the adjustment button. Now what I want to show you guys is how to get rid of these layers. Maybe I don't want some of these layers in here after all. What I can do is click and hold and drag that layer down to the trash can if that is the one that I want to get rid of. I accidentally got rid of the wrong one. Oh no, what do I do? You can step backwards in Photoshop. So if you look down at your keyboard, holding down the Command button and tap the letter Z, it will take you backwards only one step. If you want to go back more steps or multiple steps, I hold down Shift Command Z. Option Command Z. And I can go back multiple steps. Now if I go back too far, I can come up here to the top of my window, click on File, Edit, and I can step forward. And this one's a little more repetitive because I do have to hit Edit, Step Forward, Edit, Step Forward, Edit, Step Forward to get back to where I was. Only want to get rid of my brightness and contrast and my exposure layers. They're just not wanting to go away. There we go. We'll get there. All right, so now all I am left with is my black and white layer. The next thing that I want to show you guys is how to move your layers around. We can reposition these layers if we want to. So I could click my black and white layer down below my background copy. You can see down here they're rearranged, but now I don't see my black and white effect. Well, that's because my top layer is my colored background copy. So, like I mentioned earlier, that stack of pancakes, right? You've got your plain pancake on the bottom. You've got your chocolate chip pancake in the middle, and then you have your blueberry pancake on top. you have to peel off your blueberry pancake so that you can see your chocolate chip one in the middle. And we can do that temporarily by clicking this little eyeball icon right here. When I click that and the eyeball goes away, that means that I temporarily do not view this top layer. I can only see what is below it. Now, I didn't delete this layer. I just temporarily chose to unsee it. When I want to see it back in my editing again, I click on that square and the little eyeball icon will pop back up. So it's gone, it's back. It's gone, it's back. So now what I can do is click and hold and rearrange my layers. There we go. And now for the last bit of this walkthrough, I want to show you what to do when you're done. There's two things we need to do when we're done. The first thing we need to do is save our image as a Photoshop document. So in case we get some feedback that maybe we want to go back and rework something in our image, we have this and all of our layers and everything we did saved. So up here at the top, I'm going to choose File, come down to Save As, and you can see down here in my file format, it is a Photoshop document. Now at this point, I am going to want to name it some sort of name so that I can identify that it is my workable document. So I might put black and white edit working. So that way I know it's my black and white edit and it's still in work. Then down here, I click the Save button. I click OK when it asks me about my size quality. Now I want to save my image as a JPEG. So if I were to just go Image, Save As, and try to change this to a JPEG format, you are going to get these little yellow warning signs over here. This means that you are not going to save your file correctly. You're going to be saving a Photoshop document with open layers. You still see them over here. But in the file name, it's going to say JPEG. That's going to confuse your computer and it will not be able to open this file, therefore corrupting it. So what you want to do if you see these guys is hit cancel. And you want to make sure that we flatten our layers. So I come up here to the top, choose the layer from my drop down. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom where it says flatten image. Once I do that, you'll see that I am down to just one layer over in my layer panel. And now I can head over to File and Save As. And I can very happily now change my file format to a JPEG. I am going to title this one Black and White Edit. Final. Make sure I know where it's going. It's going to my desktop. If I want to change it somewhere else, I can change it from over here. Then click Save. It will ask me what I want for my JPEG options. I always choose the largest size. Then I click OK. And I'm done. And at this time, I can exit out of my image and go back and find a new image to work on. Happy editing!